Are you moving to Seattle and feeling overwhelmed by the thought of finding the perfect school for your kids? You are not alone. Choosing the right school is one of the most important decisions for families relocating to the area, because that can make or break your kids' whole experience, right? So in today's video, I'm going to uncover the top-rated schools in Seattle and the surrounding suburbs so you can feel confident in your choice. So I'm going to share what some of the best-rated schools are, and then I'm going to tell you how to do your own research if you need to kind of look into more different options. But we can look, from academic excellence to extracurricular activities. We can talk about what makes these schools good and whether or not they're going to be a good fit for your child. Some of them are specialty schools, private schools, lots of different options. So stick around to discover the best educational options that Seattle has to offer, and your child's future is about to start here. So welcome to my channel. If you're wondering how to find the best schools in Seattle, you are not alone. One of the most common questions we get from families moving to the area is about school quality. So in this video, I'm going to explore the top-rated schools in Seattle according to Niche and GreatSchools. So whether you're considering public, private, charter schools, we've got you covered. Let's dive in and help you make an informed choice for your family's education. Okay, so what we're looking at now, again, is GreatSchools. It's all the private high schools within 30 minutes of Seattle. And I don't know if this is everything, but I want to tell you kind of what I know about some of these schools. So I personally went to this school here. It's called Lakeside. Okay, so let's just touch on the private schools here before we wrap up. Now, this is GreatSchools. I don't know how comprehensive it is, but we're supposedly showing the high schools, the private high schools within 30 miles of Seattle, and you can kind of see where they're distributed. There's some over here on the peninsula. The peninsula you have to access by ferry or a really long drive south through Tacoma and up and around over the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, which is a toll bridge. Like, it's not really practical to live there or go there if you're trying to get into Seattle. So that's not really what we're talking about. There are also a handful of schools here in the Tacoma area, especially around this north end of Tacoma. Right here, this is kind of the high rent district in Tacoma, up here by Ruston and the Point Defiance Zoo and Aquarium. So that's Tacoma. Bellarmine Prep is one of the great schools down there in Tacoma. That's where my brother-in-law went, and seems like the rich and famous people of Tacoma tend to go there. Here it's listed, Bellarmine Prep. And then Annie Wright is the other school that I'm familiar with. We had friends who, they were both lawyers. They had an only child, and they sent him to Annie Wright, also in that area. So those are some of the schools in Tacoma. As far as Seattle goes, there are a couple of down here south by the airport, and I know there's actually a high school that specializes in flying, because when I went to go see the Blue Angels, they had a fundraiser. They're those Navy pilots that fly in really close formation and do loop-de-loops and things like that. They come here and fly in the summer as part of our Seafair Summer Festival. And anyway, while I was going down there to see them, I saw this private flight high school, and I'm not sure if I can remember the name of it, but it was down here, I believe. So down here in South Seattle, near SeaTac, Seattle Christian Schools, John F. Kennedy Catholic High School, Soundview Education. And then over here on the east side, there aren't actually that many private high schools. Number one, the east side has only recently kind of taken off as far as its popularity, I would say, in the last 10 years. Historically, Seattle was the much more popular, wealthier kind of place to live. I think this is kind of from Microsoft coming into Redmond 40 years ago. It's becoming more of a tech hub, and as Seattle gets a little bit dirtier and more dangerous, Bellevue looks better by comparison. So a lot of stuff is expanding into Bellevue now, and has been over the last 10 or 20 years, but it wasn't the kind of established place for the rich people to live and send their kids. So there's Bellevue Christian School, which is very conveniently located. It's right by the intersection of 405 and 520. So If you're going across into Seattle, you can drop off your kids there. And then we've got Forest Ridge School of the Sacred Heart, Summit Classic Christian, and I haven't heard of those two. At the Overlake School, I believe I've heard of that. Okay, Woodinville, Northwest Liberty School, Dolan. Okay, I haven't heard of those. Shoreline Pacific Learning School, Christian School, University Prep. Okay, I'm telling you the ones that I've heard of. I actually went to a school called Lakeside that's not appearing on this map, but in my opinion, it's the premier, and I'm not saying that because I'm biased. Lakeside, it's in Shoreline. It's 5th through 12th. It's one of the best, very expensive. I feel like it might be $40K a year or something like that. But this is a very academically rigorous college prep school. They have started doing a lot more with financial aid and recruiting in like a diversity of people. But when I went there 20 plus years ago, it had a lot of legacy people, and it would be like Nordstrom's people, Macaw cell phone people. Bill Gates sent his kids there. It was like Benaroya Concert Hall and Benaroya wing of the hospital, like their kids were there. Piggott Library, like a lot of the buildings and people who went there were kind of like the who's who of rich, wealthy, well-connected Seattle. So this was a great place to go to meet people that were rich or had, it's kind of hard sometimes. The people who are rich and successful, their kids are not equally successful. But and also it's very close to a private gated community called the Highlands. And so people from Broadmoor, people from across the lake, everybody would send their kids here. And this school is pretty much over here in Shoreline at 145th and I-5. So pretty convenient. Some people would get there by bus. Another great school in the Shoreline area is King's, which is Christian and fairly conservative. So if you want a more conservative school, politically speaking, you have a chance of meeting some conservatives there, which you don't usually have. Like, it's a very liberal area. So if you want to meet conservatives, schools are a great way to find them, and like Christian schools in particular. So this is, I believe, pre-K to 12th. They have great sports teams. They have great robotics teams. They have some different STEM programs that the kids do throughout the day. They have an interesting program where the middle school kids, 7th and 8th grade, I believe, the boys are separate from the girls for a lot of the classes like math and reading and writing. I think they're together for, some that are maybe less academic oriented classes. But the idea is that when our brains are so oriented toward the other sex, and or, sometimes girls we're finding are outperforming boys in the classroom, and boys are at a disadvantage and falling behind. So they have that little period of separation there. They also have a great theater program. It's a pretty big school, a lot of camaraderie. They have stuff where they, interact with the elderly who live at a different place near their campus. King's is great, and another big name around here. And then I would say the Evergreen School for the Gifted is another school, another private school in Shoreline. And this, I would say, on the other hand, is very liberal. They have a lot of transgender students, or they're welcoming toward that. They have a lot of social emotional programs and things. So that's also pretty expensive in the Shoreline area. These are some that I'm very familiar with because they're near me, but they're also extremely well regarded. I would say at Lakeside, we played against O'Day, which I believe, not O'Deal, O'Day, which is a all boys school. I believe it's a Catholic all boys school that's very well regarded. And their sister school was Holy Names, which is also Catholic. There was Blanchette, another Catholic school. This is by Green Lake. So we would run against them in cross country. This is Green Lake. And it was really fun. They would actually, their cross country team would jog around the lake, which is about 3 miles, for their workouts. And there are also some parks and things over here that have hills. So they have a really nice location near Green Lake, wonderful campus. And that's another great school, lots of pride there. And then another one that I like is University Prep. The Bush School is in the Leschi area, kind of over this side of the Arboretum. The Arboretum is a big forested park. It's right here. This is the Arboretum. So the Bush School is probably down there. The Bush School is also excellent, and it's kind of good for people who are living in this area, also probably up here. Those are some of the great schools in the area. People also like Waldorf schools. So I think there are a number of Waldorf schools here. They can be controversial, but a lot, especially for early elementary, people like those a lot. So, I also wanted to point out that there are special needs schools. So if your child has autism or ADD or some other kind of learning differences, there are a couple of great schools in this area. And there's actually one that's by the University of Washington, which is in this area, UW. I don't remember the name of it, but it's right there by where the University of Washington has their farmers market. And it does ABA, which is if you have a child with autism, it's applied behavioral analysis. It's basically clicker training for children. So they have different levels of kids with different needs, from severely autistic to neurotypical children that might be siblings of the autistic children. And so they have kind of a spectrum of different people. Some of them have a full-time aide. Some of them are assisted by the teacher or like an aide that's covering 3 different kids. And they're working on everything from, sitting quietly to sitting with a spinner toy or a fidget to, really getting to pursue reading things in their special interest area. It's kind of depending on what their needs are, but it is a special needs private school for autism in particular. And I'm sure there are other ones for different special needs. There are a lot of nerdy people here working in the IT community. Like I would put my family in that group, and a lot of them have kids with special needs and have gotten good results from this. And then the last thing I just want to point out is homeschooling is also an option if you're interested. There's a lot of different resources. This is a homeschool friendly state. If you want to homeschool, you just register your child with the state that they're homeschooling, and then like once a year you're supposed to get them tested, like have a standardized test of your choice. You choose the test, you pay for the test, and then you put the test results in your file cabinet. You don't need to report it or get checked in on. But the idea is that you as the parent know, like, oh, my kid is in the 99th percentile. We're doing amazing on everything. Or little Johnny is doing well in math, but his reading skills aren't so good. So you just have some feedback as a parent of what some of the things are that you might want to be focusing on. So that's something to be aware of as far as that's something you're considering. If you don't like the public school system and you're looking for other options, you can also link with the homeschool and the public school. So you can go to, let's say, band practice at the public school. You can enroll in your IEP programs. Like if your son he's on the autism spectrum, you're homeschooling, but you want him to go to school for that social skills group or something, that the special needs program at school or speech therapy or whatever kind of things he has the right to access through the public school system, you can do it on an a la carte basis where you take him there from 2 to 3 and he does his physical therapy at school, and then you bring him home. So that's an option as well. And then there are even kind of more cooperative programs where you can say, oh, we're homeschooling, but I'm not good at math. I don't know how to teach math. So I'm going to bring my child into a co-op. And I think it's Edmonds that has this, but there's a homeschool co-op run by the school system. So you can sign up for one or more classes there. It's primarily with other homeschoolers. You're not joining in a public school that's pre-existing of full-time public school students. You're joining in with other homeschool students, and you can go to like a guitar making class. They have some really good theater programs. A lot of people who like musical theater, that's something that's hard to replicate at home, so you can go do that there. But there is more oversight. You actually do get funding for some of your books and curriculum as long as it's not religious. And then there's also some reporting that you do to the school. So kind of some people don't like it because it's more government oversight, but some people like the social aspects, the plugging into the school district. So it's just kind of, you have options here, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But if you're looking for private schools, these ones that I've listed are the most well-known, prestigious, well thought of ones in the area. And then there's certainly more, especially elementary school, especially Catholic and Christian school, smaller schools that you can look at and kind of see what's offered in your neighborhood. But these are the ones that are kind of the who's who and what's what, the big names that if you said, I go here, people would say, oh yeah, I've heard of that and I think well of it. Anyway, I hope that's helpful as far as giving you an overview of the private schools to look at. And if you are excited about going to one of these schools, you might want to interview there and also kind of think about how that works into your commute, taking your kids to school. Because I know like King's has a bus, like a private bus for the kids, but some of them don't. Here, like this was the public transportation. We had to take metro or drive or carpool or something, have our parents take us. So just depending on how you're planning to get to school, it's certainly more convenient to live close to your school or have it be on the way to work or something like that. So you could look at a downtown school if you work downtown and you just want to take your kids there, kind of you commute together, you get the carpool lane, and then you drop off your kid once you get downtown.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope this guide to the best schools in Seattle has been informative and helpful. If you have any questions or you need further assistance, feel free to reach out via my website or in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more valuable content on living and thriving in Seattle. Your family's education is definitely a priority, and I'm here to help you every step of the way. So this is Emily Cressey with HomeProAssociates.com, and until we meet again, I will see you in the next video.